What's going on YouTube? This is Fish Freak Phil. Just wanted to give you an update. February 19th, President's Day 2018. This is the third week and no water changes. Had some film on the glass, of course, algae, scraped it off. Looking pretty good. Also, had some paleos in the back here. I replaced that, traded in my little colony for some Duncan coral. I never really liked that colony, to be honest with you. It's kind of one of those kind of grab and see what happens. Started off like 4 or 5 heads and had probably quadruple the amount of heads by the time I brought it back. So it's all good. Yeah, so tank is still looking pretty good. I may actually break down and do a water change, and I'll explain why. Back here, this is what was happening. I have my auto top off here. Now I know some people have it differently, where they have the water returning into the main display. I like it coming into the sump area because this is where the water is actually going to measure. This is where the indicators or sensors are, and I don't want my display getting higher than this. Now, kind of during the week, last time I did a water change a few weeks ago, I put a lot of filter floss down here, which I've done before, but I kind of went overboard and put a lot of it. So what was happening, and I noticed that the water, the auto top off was topping off here, and I have a high level of water in this chamber, the second chamber, and the water wasn't really, it wasn't coming up as quickly as it should have based on how much water was in here. As a matter of fact, there's so much water in here, had it actually gone through into the third return chamber, it probably wouldn't have needed to be topped off. Like, my sensor would have gone off. So last night went away for a week, for the weekend. Had my when I go away for the weekend, depending on how I have it running, I may turn it on and off. I turned it off, came back, and I removed this sponge, did a little bit of maintenance, and I had way too much filter floss down here. What happens is that filter floss is catching debris and stuff, because it's really going to go, this sponge is okay for larger things, but there's a lot that gets through this. So I like to put the filter floss under here, and under this I have pond matrix and Phosphogard in a bag. That's what I run in here. And in here, as you can see, it's not the greatest looking, is my refugium. And basically, these are the cheap LED lights I've got on here. One here and one is on the bottom here, like I've described before. Anyway, yeah, so there was a lot of debris that was matted on the filter floss, which caused this this third chamber to be low, constantly low. And then what I noticed when I was leaving, I was almost on the edge of the water, like spilling over on my display, because it was not getting pulled through effectively. The pump was not pulling it through the filter floss because it was so matted. So that's something just to be aware of if you do use filter floss in your sump. Don't be over generous with it. And if you do, make sure you're keeping it clean and doing your maintenance on that. So that's the last thing you want to do, especially if you have an auto top off. If you don't have an auto top off, then you don't really have much to worry about, unless you have your heater in here, which some heaters have been known to explode once they've been exposed, if they're fully submersible. Some heaters have been known to explode once they've been out of water, or I've had one actually melt the plastic brackets that are on it. Now going back to no water changes. Some of you guys want to know what I do with my corals. Oh, I do dose. This is what I dose. Kent, Tech M Magnesium, and I do a 2-part Kent for nano reefs, part A and part B. And I also use this aqua vitro fuel for reefs. Now I don't dose anything to its full dosage for this tank. I'm very I use very little, and I'm dosed twice a week. I used to do it at the same time as my water changes. I used to actually do water changes twice a week. Then I found out that no, this is not a planted tank, and I don't need to be doing it that much. Yeah, the corals are looking great still. If you can see here, my Rostozoas are on a comeback. Don't call it a comeback, and you can hear my auto top off going off right now. Boom, done. Couple things for you guys. I know it's winter out there, or depending on where you are. I'm in the Northeast. One thing you definitely want to get, if you don't have this for a planted tank or fish tanks or salt, you definitely want this. Now I don't know if you can see here. It's a battery backup. These things go for anywhere from $30 to $40 to, depending on what your usage is. I have here, and let me turn on a light so you can see a little better. Now, yes, my little corner is messy, and I have no qualms with it. Now, this cobalt, I'm going to eventually put that in there. As you can see, that heater is on. It's a smaller heater, and it's on now. But back to this. I have just my return pump on here and my heater. This here is not the actually bad. This is the battery and surge side of it, and this is just the surge protector. This that I run my lights on here. This is a regular strip. I have these are for the refugium lights, auto top off, other pump on the side there, and this is what is this for? My protein skimmer. You definitely want something in case the power switch or trips or whatever for whatever reason in your area. And I don't have a whole lot into it because if something were to happen, I forgot what these are rated for, but I want this to be able to last long term. Not long term, but if it's down for an hour, I want the most out of this I can get without. So I have literally just my return and my heater on there. Now there is also, which I would actually be thinking about doing, is getting a. They have pumps, air pumps, which would be great, that you plug in and they're battery operated. Once there's no electricity on, they turn on, which would be great. And that's what you need for to make sure the water's oxygenated. There's current along the top. That's something I may actually do, kind of as a redundancy, and probably plug it in the surge area. Because if that goes down, that means my pump, my return in here is off, and my heat's off. But at least that's one less thing I have to worry about. Okay, these guys are hungry. It is feeding time. And it's, like I said, when I feed heavily, and this is not even, this is just the beginning. They'll get after that. But yeah, everything is looking great. Man, that I don't know if you look in the back there. That rainbow, gosh, Digita Montepora, or whatever it's called. I'm probably saying their names wrong, but man, this thing is growing. It looks like a freaking hand. That's awesome. This thing is growing like crazy. I'm loving it. I really want. Jacques is in the way, of course. My clove polyps, I really want them to grow there, but man, they're always so irritated by it. This cleaner shrimp, he just goes in there and that's just pretty much his spot when it's feeding time, and he just agitates them all the time. So yeah, just an update. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm loving this. Anyway, that's Monday night update. Holla back. Like and subscribe if you want to. If not, that's cool too. Check out the videos. I have more to come. Anyway, this is Fish Freak Phil. Wishing you guys a happy President's Day. Do your research, try things out, and see what happens. Later.